Welcome back to the Motivating Force podcast. I am host Sway, and joining me as always, we have Justin. Now, the title of this episode is a twist on the movie Back to the Future, and it's going to be Back to the Present. Now, this episode, we're talking on something that sounds pretty straightforward, but there's a lot of people that struggle with this issue that they don't really notice it until they're conscious of their actions and what it is that they're doing. And that's why it's kind of important that we talk about it. And we're going to be talking about being focused on the now, being focused on the present, because a lot of people get caught up in the past. A lot of people get caught up in the future. And I'm going to be talking about what basically came from a quote that I heard from the comedian Bobby Lee on his podcast, Tie Your Belly, where I don't know if he quoted this from somebody. I don't know if he made it up on the spot, but it was great. And it made me laugh. And that's what made it stick with me. And I've used it probably twice already to other people outside of the podcast. And the quote goes, when you have a foot in the past and you have a foot in the future, right? You're basically spread eagle. So then you're pissing on the present. And I thought that was hilarious, the way he worded it and like visualizing it made it really click with me.
Well, that sounds like a very Bobby Lee thing to say. That is for sure. But hey, I like that because before we always talked about it being like that tightrope that you walk down. But putting it that way, I mean, it has its merits, It's true. To be thinking too much in the past, too much in the future, being in both without being present, because it's very easy to be thinking about the past and the future and not really paying attention to the now. And that just leads to you pissing on the now. I get it.
Exactly. And the main drive for today is to honestly just respect the present, focus on today. And we're going to I'm going to split this episode into parts so then we can kind of narrow in on each problem, because a lot of people, they usually just tend to struggle on one aspect of this. They either struggle with being caught up in the past and not letting things go, or they're too focused on the outcomes that could happen, the what ifs of the future. So to start off, we're going to be talking about the past. Now, there's a time and a place to think about the past, but it should be brief, right? You shouldn't be spending hours or days or years caught up on different things that have happened in your past that's holding you back. Because we've talked about your life's journey in detail before, where I used the example of you're creating this landscape that at the end of your life you want to look back on, right? You want a beautiful scenery. It's going to have its ups, it's going to have its lows, it's going to have its mountain peaks, it's going to have its valleys, right? So when you're on your way climbing up that mountain to hit that peak, to have that great success, the goal that you're trying to achieve, when you're on your way up there, if you have all this baggage that's weighing you down from the past of different things that have hurt you, different things that you've done that have hurt others, if you're trying to stand still on your way up that mountain and you're trying to enjoy the view for a second, that baggage is just going to pull you back down. You're not going to be able to hit that peak because your mountaintop is just going to crumble. You have too much on your shoulders from past experiences. Hello, little kitty.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing wrong with looking back at the beautiful scenery that you create in your life, but it's when you start trailing back down that mountain into the past, into territory you've already been in, that's when the problems arise. Because now you're just walking back into the same old problems that you've already dealt with and you've already overcame them. So what's the point? Why are you not moving past that mountaintop into a brighter future? Why are you heading towards places that you've already been?
Yeah, and that's the picture I was trying to paint for you is, you made it out of the valley. You don't have to deal with that valley anymore. That's just part of the landscape that you already painted. So there's no reason to fall back into it. But it's just when you get that foot stuck and cemented into the past, not only are you trying to do a split now, you're putting on a restraint that you shouldn't have to. You're putting on these extra weights that it's weighing on you, it's stressing you out, it's causing problems in your life, relationship, friends, family, whatever it is, But the main point is that you should just learn to forgive. You should learn to mend whatever issue it is that you had. And even if it's something that it's going to occur later on in your life, don't get caught up on, like, when that issue happens, don't get hung up on it. Start implementing these kind of ideas now that you can learn to mend from things that will happen. So then you don't get stuck in place. So then it doesn't just drag you down. And that's just an overall key point that you should have in your journey of self-growth, personal discovery, life experiences. That it's your journey, it's your landscape that you're painting. So why not just try to make the most mountaintops you can? And I don't want to stay too long on the past, obviously, because I'm telling you not to.
Oh, the irony.
Yeah, but I mean, this one's kind of short and brief. This is simple enough that you just have to be able to overcome these challenges that have happened before, overcome these past traumas, overcome these past hurts, like pains, relationships that have hurt you in the past. You just have to, it's more of like a light switch as opposed to the next problem that most people have as well. This one's more of like you really have to be conscious of what you're doing and, kick that thought or kick that idea of, if you're going about your day and then you get a flashback and then you let that affect the rest of your day, you have to be able to notice that and make the change to not get stuck in that.
Yeah, I mean, that summarizes the past pretty well. It's always good to look back just to see the points that you've learned from and to use it as that type of tool to take all of your past experiences and use it to form a better tomorrow. And otherwise, there's really no reason to have your foot in the past, because even that's not even having your foot in the past. That's just summarizing all your life experiences to not make the same mistakes again. Because I feel like that's a pretty major issue we have today, where people are so forward thinking and thinking about the future and the greater good and all these ideologies, and they forget to look at the past. And those who don't know their history are doomed to repeat it. So it's something to be very mindful of. But obviously you don't need to have your foot back there and, go through the experiences of having a Hitler in the world again. But it's something that you do need to remind yourself of, that, hey, there are people out there like that. And it's very easy to have another one of those in the world again. And to prevent that, and to metaphorically prevent the Hitlers in your life from returning, as absurd as that might sound.
I mean, I like what you said. I'm going to change one sentence real quick. And it's where you said to learn from the past to make a better tomorrow. I want to change it to learning from the past so you make a better today.
Okay.
The whole point is to focus on, what's going on and respecting the now, being mindful of now. And then, like, we're getting on that path of being forward thinking. And that's, like you said, a major issue that a lot of people have in our society now, that we have to have these goals. We have to have these career paths in line. We have to have these giant pictures painted before we even start doing it. But that's where the issue lies with a lot of people, is that they then have that foot cemented in the future. So then they get held up with not making decisions or not thinking with a sound mind, because they're too worried on the what ifs, on the possibilities that could happen or could not happen. And then they don't act now. When a lot of, billionaires, millionaires, people that have become successful, ask any of them. I'm pretty sure they're not going to tell you, oh, I was always worried on what's going to happen. They're going to tell you that they just acted. They did it now. They weren't worried about what could happen in the future, because it's the life that they're living is now. It's the present. So they have to just act, and then whatever comes, they'll deal with it as it goes. Obviously, you have to be mindful of, immediate reactions, immediate consequences of your actions, but you don't have to go months or years even in the future and being caught up with, oh, but then the business can crumble, because then you will never open up a business. You'll never even attempt it because there is a possibility that the business can end. And then now this is where we go into, like I said, the future. This is for the overthinkers and the overplanners. Something that I've dealt with in detail before, that I've struggled with. And then, like I just mentioned, that it's not a negative trait. You have to be able to have some kind of foresight. You have to be able to weigh out the pros and cons of actions that you are going to take, because you have to be mindful of that there is consequences. There's consequences for everything, good or bad. So it's not negative when you're thinking logically and realistically. But overall, being cemented in the future is the problem here. Worrying needlessly, stressing out without want, when it's causing anxiety attacks, when it's causing panic attacks, there's no reason for that. So if you're somebody that deals with that, this is where you should really be listening in, because this is a problem that you can easily solve if you are conscious of your actions.
Yeah, and in a sense, the future is a scary place to be because you have endless possibilities. The past already happened. It's already there. You can only dwell on it, worst case scenario. But with the future, it's this open door, and anything can happen tomorrow, from the most absurd things to the most uneventful things, And when you have your foot in the future like that, you can only plan so far ahead, and you can only be concrete in so many of those plans because you don't know what's going to happen. You don't know what changes are going to come up. And it can be as early as tomorrow and as far in the future as 6 years from now. And to put yourself in that position where you put so much faith into that future setting, it can be detrimental to your growth and to your mental health. Focusing on the resiliency and on the now and making the smarter choices today is what builds that future.
Well, I like that, because just having foresight in general, it's a skill. It's a character trait that you can build up. It's something that you can get better at with practice. So just because people do tend to get caught up and cemented in the future worries and the future consequences, it doesn't mean that that's all bad. You have to be able to look forward and see what's ahead. But the more you hone in on being present when you realize you're worrying or getting nervous for something that could happen, like hours or days or months from now, like we stated before, like you said, 6 years even, the more likely you can catch it ahead of time, so then you don't waste all that mental energy worrying about it needlessly. Now, this trait does kind of have its stats showing that leadership and people of authority kind of deal and struggle with this a little bit more, because they tend to they have the responsibility of weighing out so many more factors when making decisions, that's what causes them to not make the right decisions at times, because they're too focused on, well, this, like if they have 10 employees, those are 10 different factors that can make something go wrong, right? So even if it's a 1% chance of one of them, that can mess up an entire thing. So then you get so caught up in that it starts to make you a bad leader, in the sense that you're not making the correct choices needed for your team. An example being my mom, who is a small business owner, and she's constantly trying to always stay ahead of the times, stay ahead of the current events that's going on, and she's trying to adapt so then her business doesn't go belly up, right? That's something that a lot of small businesses struggle with. But I witnessed it yesterday, as a matter of fact. I was in a meeting with my stepdad, her, and I, and we were going over some opportunities and business plans that we were thinking of for months in the future. But then my stepdad and I, we realized that she kept getting caught up in the what ifs and the consequences that could occur, or the things that can go wrong. And we had to snap her out of that. We had to, preemptively stop that premature panic attack before it even happened. because we can see that. And that's the importance of also having people that you can confide in, people that you can have that hold you accountable to things, so then you don't go too far, so you don't stray too far in the future, so you don't stray too far in the past. That's why it's also important to have that group of people around you that you surround yourself with, that are there to support you, that are there to have your back when you need them to. Because a lot of times, like Justin said in the previous episode, about that your subconscious is trying to show you things, and you don't even think about these things that your subconscious is telling you. So when you have other people noticing that you're acting erratically, that you're acting nervously, or you're just getting too far ahead, they can pull you back. So that's why it's important to, pick and choose those people that you have around you.
And see, that's a great point, because that's why in my perception of it, that the future is scarier than the past, because when bad things happen in your past, well, I mean, guess what? You're still alive, so who really cares? How bad was it? But the more you think about those what ifs and negativity and consequences in the future, which one of those bad things is going to be detrimental to you? Nothing in the past was, because you're still here, you're still moving forward, life's at least okay, so who cares? But the future, you can hype yourself up so much with those negativities and so much with those what ifs, that you can think of the smallest little detail and turn it into something that's going to destroy you.
Yeah.
And that's why that future can be so much scarier, because then the further ahead you think of it, the more that amplifies. So the closer you come to being present with yourself, the less amplification you have on those fears, and the more you're able to do something and move forward.
Yeah.
Even just working on exactly that, where you're just taking a closer look instead of being so far out, is already going to be helpful enough to hopefully bring you to the present. But the closer you get to the present from either direction, from the past or the future, the better off you're going to be.
Yeah. Yeah, it causes almost like a snowball effect. When, like I said, we were talking about something that's months from now, or the example of somebody starting a business, right? The option is always going to be there. The consequence is always going to be there. The risk, let's call it, that the business will go under, right? There's a 50-50 chance that it either succeeds or it fails, right? I mean, depending on the kind of business, the percentages change, but I'm saying there's two options. Either you fail or you succeed, right? So if you let one little detail snowball and you keep going with it, and it gets bigger and bigger, it's going to eventually hit but the business is going to fail. You're not going to take the action in the present to even attempt to grow that business. You're cutting out the possibility of experiencing all of that, to growing in any sort of field, because you're letting that snowball. And like I said, it's important to have those people that you can trust, that you can confide in, to have your back and hold you accountable to staying in the present. Because, I mean, my mom, she wasn't able to make, kind of rational decisions or think with a sound mind when we were having that meeting, because she was too caught up ahead. She wasn't even listening to us half the time, because she was just like, these things could happen. And we're like, listen, we're not even there yet. Stop thinking about that. We're going to get there when it gets there, or a little bit before, obviously. As the things come, we deal with it. But for those of you that have your own examples, your own life experiences that you're going through, there's different tricks and exercises, let's call them, that you can implement in your life to keep yourself grounded. The whole point is to be here. You don't want your mind to be wandering off in the future, in the past, wherever it is. You want to kind of be here. You want to be with a sound mind. You want to be able to think and listen to everything that's going on around you. And examples that I can just kind of briefly think of is, a sort of breathing meditation. If you find yourself that you're being caught up in the past, you're overthinking, or you're being too far in the future, and then you're finding that like you're running short of breath, because you find yourself that you're holding your breath out of like an anxiety attack, that all these things could go wrong. Catch yourself there and focus on your breathing. Just stop what you're doing, be there, count your breaths, be there for like a minute or two. It should snap you back into the now. If that doesn't work, pick up like a little tick, count and be mindful of finger taps. You can do something that isn't going to be a bother to those around you. You just go like this, right? You just tap on your fingers, be there, be present. You're here, you're now, and focus on things like that. You can also look around, and like I said, this whole point came from Bobby Lee, and the example that he uses is that he just kind of focuses in great detail the things around him to help him get here. So then he'll look at, let's say this coaster cup, and then he'll look at all the colors on there and then think about it. So then he's not worried about what could happen, what happened in the past. He's just, all of his focus now is on this coaster cup, on the plant next to you, on this boom mic, on the flag, count the stripes, do something to keep you here. Look at your surroundings and focus in great detail just to snap you back into reality. Because a lot of damage can be done if you're thinking erratically. If you, like I said, you get that snowball effect going on where you're just going downhill, going back down that mountain into the valley, you're going to crash.
I mean, which way is your favorite to get back to being present-minded?
I mean, I caught myself, I would do it a lot at the hospital where I work, that I would get too much in my head about the things that I'm not doing, the things that I could be doing. And then when I get up from my desk and I start walking, I do the finger tap. That's why I thought about that.
Okay.
I just walk and I do the finger tap, and then I'm mindful of like, I'm touching every finger consecutively. I'm not skipping a finger. I'm not like tapping the same one and then getting lost in that train of thought again. I'm just being okay, going again and again and again. And that's helped me. That's why I said, I mean, you can also feel free to think of your own little ticks, think of your own little tricks and exercises, if you want to call them, to snap yourself back into reality. Or even like an Inception. They have the little token, the totem.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a little spinner top. Everybody has their own. One's a chess piece or something, and then it just keeps them grounded.
Right. That's pretty cool. I was wondering because for myself to stay more present-minded, honestly, I stopped thinking whatever it is I'm thinking about, if it's too far in the past or too far in the future, and I kind of make an effort to think about nothing. But so I've heard that can be hard for a lot of people.
Yeah, I was going to say that's pretty hard, because that's the goal, is to get yourself to realize you're doing it and to stop thinking about it.
Yeah.
So you're not doing anything else. You're just focusing on blank space.
Yeah.
Just think of blank space.
Yeah.
Well, then if that works for you, it might work for other people.
You
so
never know.
I'm glad you gave the example, because that's, something that other people can try.
Yeah.
Because like I said, it doesn't seem like it's a bad trait.
Right.
But the bad trait is when you start to cement yourself in the future. Because if you're doing both, man, if you're cementing yourself in the past and you're cementing yourself in the future, you're pissing on the present, like I said at the beginning of this. And now to wrap things up pretty much in the present is to just remember to reevaluate which of these you kind of lean more towards. It's all a spectrum. Everybody can fluctuate. You can be both. You can worry about the future at times, and you can also worry about the past. You can worry about the past so much that it affects the future, and that's why I said you have to learn from the past to make a better today, not tomorrow. So like I said, you reevaluate which one of these you kind of lean towards the most, and then start actively finding solutions for yourself. Everybody's an individual. Everybody is different from one another. We all have different tricks that we can use for ourselves to snap us back into reality. But the whole point is the past is done, right? We have to keep moving forward with our heads held high. And you can't get lost looking so far ahead, because you'll miss out on opportunities. You'll miss out on experiences and all the gifts that are just laid around in the present. So don't piss on any of that. Don't take it for granted, and live your life to the best you can.
It's beautiful, man. I think it's a perfect summary there. Plenty of examples about the past and what to look for in it, what to get away from, and same thing with the future. And all of it coinciding with bringing you to the present, as well as some tips, tricks, strategies to maintain present-minded, or to come to the realization and pull yourself into the present. And I think there's one last trick that I'd like to share with keeping people present minded, because I know with this conversation it's going to bring you guys into a lot of thought about your past and about your future. But to be present minded, something to do is to focus on the content in front of you, and you'll notice a couple buttons on there, and there might be a like button, there might be a subscribe button, there might be a rate button, and I'd appreciate it if you hit those things and focused on it, put some thought into it, pick the stars, hit the bell icons, hit the thumbs up, and just do what you can to support us. We appreciate every single one of you guys. We love you guys so much. We'd love to hear more from you. DMs are always open. Comment sections are always open. Feel free to hit us up there.
I like where that was going. If you need to take a pause on the video or the audio that you're listening to, you can always leave a rating. You can make a comment in that rating when you choose the stars that you have for us, and then that can help you think about what's your thought on us now. You don't have to keep thinking about yourself in the future, keep thinking about your past. Just focus on the now and what you feel like we deserve in this content that we're putting out for you guys. And then again, all of our videos come out Mondays and Wednesdays at 8 a.m. EST. Now, until next time, guys, go and get.